your trip, you charge your air flights and all that over time, you get points, and you can actually use that against your air
I get
flight.
2%.
Sure.
On the Bank of America.
So there's ways of traveling, but you got to think this through ahead of time. And a lot of people forget about the cost of the air flight. They say, oh, it's only $700 to go to the Caribbean or wherever, but you got to think of these other things.
Right.
And
that's why I go out in America. Incidentally, you mentioned the fact that the drinks cost. They tell me they don't make any money on your ticket. That's $600 a person, like $1,200 for the two of you in a cabin. They go by two in a cabin, running at 12. They don't make any money on that.
Right.
They break even on that.
That's the base.
They make the money on your drinks, especially alcoholic drinks.
Right. Well, that's really the same
$5
thing
to
in a
$8 a pop. They make the dough on gambling. If you go into the casino,
whoosh,
bye-bye. And they make the dough on excursions. All those excursions.
Well, let's talk about those excursions.
Yeah.
If you're going to go to an area, and many of you are probably watching right now, are seasoned veteran travelers, this isn't for you. This is for the first timers. If you're going to an area for the first time, I recommend that you use the ship's excursions, because they're going to make sure you get back to the ship on time, that it's been tested, and they know where you can go and where you can't go, because there's certain places in this world you just don't want to go wandering off on your own. And you may pay a little bit more, but you're going to be safe.
They're trying to double more.
Right. Well, but if you go off the ship and you go to the first taxi cab driver and says, hey, for $50 I'll take you all over the place, you don't know what's going on, or some of these other trips that may or may not be up to par.
Right.
So,
well, the big danger is not getting back on time.
Right.
Now, if it's one of their excursions, they'll hold the ship. If it's your excursion with somebody who's not affiliated, the ship sails merrily away.
And this is what it sounds like. Will passenger Reed Powers please report to the gangplank? Ship is leaving in 7 minutes.
Right. But of course, they have, when you go to Bahamas or Bermuda, you have a 3-day layover there. So you leave the first day. The chances are you're going to get back before the ship sails. But yeah, you're going to pay for the excursion. And some of the great ones are the glass bottom ships. Oh yeah. Especially in the southern waters, it clears up hell, and beautiful. You see all the fish, and then there's always you can swim with the dolphins everywhere, and for $30 they'll take a picture of you kissing a dolphin. And there's a lot of other fantastic trips. They take you on tours all over the place. You can see it. I like to take the jitney buses, the regular local buses, which are air conditioned usually, and very well appointed by a driver who loves to tell you where you are and what's going on. He's like a travel agent.
They're characters, aren't they? Usually
they are. They love to chat, and they're tour guide. They'll tell you what everything is, and they cost you. For about $4 instead of the $25 you're going to pay for the excursion bus, which shows you basically the same stuff.
So but that's for the seasoned traveler, when you get to know the lay of the land, and you get to know who to trust, and one of the other good things is you talk to the other passengers on the ship.
Right, many of them are old pros.
We were in Hawaii just about a year ago, and we were talking with folks that had been to Hawaii like 37 times, and they said, don't do this, don't do this. What you do is you get off the ship, you get a taxi cab for $5, and they take you down to this beach, and there's a great hotel or what. So that they know the lay of the land. So don't be afraid to talk to other people. And generally, not always, but generally when you're on these cruise ships, they seat you. They don't sit you. They seat you with about half dozen other people if it's just you're the only couple with your group, and you get to know people from all around the world, all over the country. To this day, I just got emails from a couple folks that we were on the ship with when we were in Hawaii.
Yeah.
We keep tabs sometimes from people that when we were in Europe or up in Alaska and so forth. Now, have you traveled outside of the Caribbean?
I've been in the Caribbean. No, I've never gone anywhere out of New York, because it's easiest and cheapest and the best way. But I too develop relationships on board and get to know people. And you're right, you can exchange wonderful information with somebody who's been there before. I was telling everybody a guarded secret about Bermuda. If you go to Bermuda, you want to take the buses around or the ferry over to Hamilton, which is the main drag in St. George, which is a secondary city, and it's going to cost you. And most people, they do as advised. They buy a 2 or 3 day pass, which will cost them about $60 or $30 a piece at least. And I point out that little known, and most places don't sell them, but some of the ticket places do. and I told them where they can get them. You can get a pack of 15 tickets, 15
Wow.
rides for $30, which amounts to $2 a ride. Now the normal rate for a ride is $4. But if you buy these little tickets, and they're good forever. If you have a pass,
So,
it's
yeah.
good it's dead after 3 days.
Especially
or 2
if you
days.
like a particular region, you plan to go
Yeah.
back to it. You know, another good tip for safety purposes anyways, we almost always, once we're on ship, we always seem to find another couple or two that we kind of cotton to, as you'd say.
Yeah.
And we'll say, hey, you know, we're thinking about just doing a walk into this town. You want to go with us? We did this in Mexico, because, you know, Mexico's been kind of a little dicey.
I'm really scared of Mexico.
Well, we were into Ensenada, which was fine. It was to me, it was like going to where am I thinking? Just any place down in Florida. But anyways, but we said, okay, we'll go together, and we just walked into the town, and we had a great time, and we looked out for each other. And so don't go just the two of you. Go in couples, 2 or 3 couples.
Don't go to back alleys.
Don't go to back alleys.
I'll tell you, the cartel runs everything now in Mexico.
Oh, yeah?
The drug cartel. They run the government. They have the government in the palm of their hands. They pay off the police and even the military. And your life is in your hands if you stray from the path. I noticed when I was going through the Mediterranean, I was very hesitant to even stop at a Mexican city. But I did stop along the waterfront. I noticed there was a gun-toting cop or a machine gun-toting Marine or something at every corner. And God help you if you go 1 block back.
But
they kidnap
you know, let's compare though cruising to other kinds of travel that's out there.
All right.
And you know, you can go to what's called all-inclusive resorts. That's a little different, and and that's for people that they particularly find a particular spot, like let's say Bermuda or Aruba or St. Martin's, or it could be anywhere in Europe, whatever. And you go and you stay in this resort for the entire time. Now, you can stay 1 week, 2 weeks, 10 days, 12 days. They have all kinds of different packages. But in this particular case, you go there, you pay one money, and your meals are included, your drinks are included, and sometimes that's a pretty good deal too.
Right, it is. You unfortunately don't get to travel much.
Right.
That's the thing about the ship. I love going to all these foreign lands.
Right.
And they include everything too, excepting your drinks.
Okay.
Again, the drinks are a big deal.
Okay, Reed, well, I'm going to sign off right now,
Okay,
and I'll let
fine.
you take it from there. So thanks for having me over, and we'll talk more about travel.
Okay, next time we'll discuss the cruises out of the Mediterranean.
Well, why don't we talk now about cruising in Chautauqua County?
Well, I got a guest here who's going to talk a little bit about some of the real business of Chautauqua County, which is the tourism. That's the only thing that seems to be growing well. She's a very old pro here. She's been here many times, and she covers the ground when it comes to making a buck in Chautauqua County. I'm getting a haircut there. I just got one, and they took too much off. Not enough off on the side, though. I got to take that and shear it back, I guess. We have with us Gail Black. Now, Gail Black is a pretty well-known person down in on Route 5 in Westfield. She has the place called the Sugar Shack. And I'm going to ask her why it's called the Sugar Shack. And one of the connections I have is I used to live, my family owned that property where she is for over a century. I remember my Aunt Em died there, she's 102. Okay, good morning, Gail.
Good morning, Reed. How are you this morning?
I'm doing fine. John and I were just chatting about cruising, and there is a lot going on here in Chautauqua County in terms of tourism. That's one of our main things, and that's one you plugged into. That's why I wanted to ask you to drop by and just give us a few words on this. Now, why is that called the Sugar Shack, incidentally?
Well, a sugar shack in the Northeast, Reed, is any maple syrup operation. It's either a sugar shack or a sugar house. I named it a sugar shack back in 1992,
And then there's a sugar
not
bush.
knowing that there are sugar houses which are other things. So mine is Sugar Shack, Vinewood Acres Sugar Shack. If you look at my website, it's sugarshack1.com.
Okay, and you still haven't told me, what do you make there?
I make maple products, I make maple syrup, I make maple sugar, I make maple cream, I make granulated sugar, and we sell that at the Sugar Shack along with 27 varieties of fruit syrups, including wild elderberry,
I'm sure
wild black raspberry, which I'm sure you picked when you were a kid.
Actually, I made a corncob pipe out of it. You know, the stem is hollow.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yes.
You take the
Out of
corncob
elderberry.
and cut it up.
Right.
And that's the stem that you use.
When I started making maple syrup, I think it was Anne Groff that had an article in the Westfield paper. She was Ann Johnson then. And it said that the Indians discovered maple syrup when they were cooking in an open pot under a broken branch of a maple tree. It dripped in and made their stew sweet. And then she went on to detail how old-timers used elderberry stems and hollowed out the center, made a hole in the tree, set a pot on the ground, and collected the sap. And so I looked out the window and I had elderberry bushes and maple trees, and I got out there with my pruning shears and my piece of wire, and I made some spiles, that's what they're called, and put them in the trees and started making maple syrup. And the very first time I did that in a tub at the end of the porch, and I set the siding on fire. Then Dick Davies was mayor of Westfield. He thought that we had a pretty nice setup, so he brought his wife Rosie and his kids, and they boiled all one Saturday and all one Sunday, and it got windy, and they set the woods on fire, and the fire department had to come. And it's been quite an experience. Peggy Beckman came down. She made it when she was a child way up north.
What'd she burn down?
She didn't burn anything down. She just carried a lot of wood and a lot of sap, and we had a good time making maple syrup for our families. That's how I got started in 1972.
I tapped those same trees you're tapping, I'm sure, back when I was a kid.
Yep.
And I used to make my own, but I'd only make about a half gallon of it because it takes 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of good maple syrup.
The first time I tapped those trees, I was so proud. I went all the way to the road, and I had 40 holes in trees. And I did it with a hand-bitten brace.
Yeah.
Got all the way to the road, and I'm walking back, and I had tapped every ash tree along the way, and not one sugar maple, and I had to do it all over.
Oh, you had to learn what the sugar maple looks like.
That's right.
It's they call it the sugar bush, where all the trees are.
There you go.
Right?
That's right.
And
the Latin name for maple trees is Acer sacrum.
Okay, which all crossword puzzles have to know.
That's correct.
Acer is the term they use. Okay, now, first of all, there ain't that many trees there. You must sell a lot of maple syrup. Do you buy it from elsewhere?
I bought more land, Reed.
Oh, so where'd you buy the land?
Right there along the edge, the piece that came down along the cornfield, and we have probably 300 or 400 trees there.
Okay, that's quite a lot.
And a lot of maples have grown, but you never tap a maple tree till it's 12 inches in diameter, and it takes it 40 years to grow that big.
Oh boy.
Then you only put one hole in it, and we at Vinewood Acres have a rule of thumb that we don't add more than 4 holes to any tree.
Okay.
We want our sugar bush to last a long time.
It might kill the tree, huh?
There you go. Well, I don't know if it would.
Lose all the sap and make it sick.
Well, we just don't do that. So,
okay,
and then we lease trees. We lease trees clear to Fredonia on Webster Road and Route 20, and we have 65 acres across the road that used to belong to Stanley Kurgan.
Okay. Well, tell me, now today I see there's pretty sophisticated ways of tapping these trees. They have lines that run around to barrels.
New York State, New York State tested for lead in maple syrup 12 or 15 years ago, sent out a maple digest directive that said that the lead that they were finding in finished maple syrup was coming from galvanized buckets. And they suggested everyone go to tubing. We did that then. So all our trees are tubed. They go to 3 main lines, one east, one west, and one south. Of course, none to the lake, because that would be in the lake. No, north.
Right.
Okay. And it goes to a tank at the lowest point on our farm, and then it's pumped automatically to our evaporator, which is a stainless steel TIG-welded food-grade automatic draw-off oil-fired evaporator.
Holy mackerel, Andy. I hear that they...
with a preheater on the top.
Yeah,
so.
I hear that some of them are now shortening the process.
With reverse osmosis.
Yeah, they have osmosis. Now, how does that work? What's that?
Well, they take 60 to 90% of the moisture out of the sap before it gets to the evaporator.
90% would be almost all of it.
They can make 30 gallons an hour with that process.
Wow, and that saves the heat, right?
However, we don't believe in reverse osmosis syrup at Vinewood Acres. We still do it the old-fashioned way with the most modern food-grade equipment that we can find. We feel that, and that was in the directive too, that some of the minerals and vitamins go with that water that goes out of the sap. And we just prefer to boil it down the way it's always been done. Instead of 30 gallons an hour, we make 3.
Okay, well...
But we have all the flavor and all the color.
And you get to suffer.
Yeah, we get to suffer, but it's fun to suffer out there. In the wintertime, it's warm, it's steamy, and it smells good, and it's delicious, and we like it.
Where do you
There
get
is
the
a
wood?
great market for the reverse osmosis syrup.
Oh, I know. That's
if you
what
look at the
everybody's using.
population of the United States, and now China buys barrels of maple syrup.
They love it.
have,
now.
oh yes.
And the Japanese